All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are cracking open a hidden playbook, one that's all about navigating the tricky world of power. And believe me, this stuff is just as relevant in today's boardroom as it was in a king's palace. We're diving deep into Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. So, what's at the heart of this law? It's really one powerful idea. The courtier is a master of, well, indirection. They just get that in the game of power, how things look is often way more important than how they actually are. They flatter, they yield, and they assert their power in the most graceful, subtle way you can imagine. Now, it's really easy to just hear courtier and think, okay, this is ancient history, right? Kings, queens, jesters, what does any of that have to do with us today? Well, the argument here is that assuming it's ancient history is a pretty dangerous mistake. Because, you see, the fundamental dynamics, they haven't changed one bit. Sure, the grand royal palace might be gone, but the need to navigate hierarchies, manage egos, and gain influence, that stuff is timeless. The game is absolutely still being played all around us, every single day. And that brings us to the modern world, where these courts are invisible, but trust me, they are very, very real. Let's take a look at how that old world maps directly onto our own. So here's the crucial point. The king, that's now your CEO, your boss, or maybe that one client you absolutely cannot lose. The royal court, that's just the office, the boardroom, the team you work with. And while the stakes might not literally be exile or death, getting fired, being sidelined, or just being made totally irrelevant, that's the modern equivalent. The game is just as serious. So how do you actually play this game? Well, the first and probably the most critical rule is all about understanding your relationship with the people in charge. You have to serve the master. And who's the master? It's really anyone whose favor is critical for you to succeed. But here's what you really need to get: their psychology. They need to feel secure in their job, brilliant in their ideas, and frankly, superior to the people around them. Your job is to make that their reality. And we're not talking about just simple, obvious flattery here. Oh no, this is a high art. The source material gives us a fantastic example of this with the architect for King Louis XIV of France. The brilliance of this move is just how subtle it is. See, Mansart didn't just walk in with a perfect plan. He intentionally put in a small mistake, something he knew the king would spot. So when Louis inevitably corrects it, Mansart would just be overwhelmed with admiration, making the king feel like the true architectural genius. See what he did? Mansart made his master shine, and by doing that, he secured his own rise to the top. All right, let's move on to the next key principle, because it builds on this. It's not just about what you do, it's about how you look while you're doing it. The perfect courtier masters the art of nonchalance. Think about it for a second. You know that person who is always talking about how hard they work, who always looks stressed out and strained? They don't really inspire confidence, do they? They kind of make everyone else uncomfortable. But the true genius, they make it look easy. It's as if their incredible talent just flows naturally. Their work seems graceful, not like something they sweated and toiled over. This really gets to the core of the psychology here. When you show all your effort, it can come across like a complaint, or it can even make other people feel insecure about their own work. But when you hide the struggle, your success seems effortless. And that is what creates this aura of just natural, undeniable talent. You know, the life of a courtier is a total tightrope walk. The rewards can be huge, but the price of one tiny misstep can be absolute ruin. So let's look at a few fatal mistakes you have to avoid. So our first cautionary tale is a really stark reminder that even the most brilliant people can fail at this game. This story comes from the court of Alexander the Great, and it's about a philosopher who valued truth above pretty much everything else. So Callisthenes, he thought his brilliant, unfiltered criticisms would be welcomed by a fellow intellectual like Alexander. He was so wrong. In court, your boss is not interested in your raw, honest opinion of him. That kind of honesty is seen as an attack, and, well, the consequences can be pretty severe. Next up, we have a guy who was the absolute authority on style and taste, the famous dandy Beau Brummel. And his mistake? It was one that so many of us could make. Just a poorly aimed joke. One joke. That is literally all it took. Brummel was a huge favorite of the prince, but he crossed a sacred line by mocking his master's appearance, a really sensitive subject. His fall from grace was immediate. and total. He went from the very top of society to dying alone and broke. And our final story is maybe the most confusing one of all. It's about the danger of trying to do too much. I know, this sounds completely insane, right? A guy gets punished for an act of kindness. But the ruler saw it totally differently. The crown keeper had overstepped his role. By putting the coat on him, he was silently criticizing the actual coat keeper for not doing his job. By doing more than he was asked, he upset the whole delicate order of the court. The lesson is kind of chilling. Do your job perfectly, but never, ever do someone else's. At the end of the day, this is a game that just requires constant attention. It never, ever stops. It's a continuous performance where every single tiny detail matters. And there are so many rules. You have to be modest, almost hiding your own achievements. You got to master your own face, so you only show the emotion that's required for the situation. You avoid bad news like the plague, and you work to be a source of pleasure, so people actually want to be around you. And maybe most important of all, you have to constantly watch yourself, trying to see how your actions look to everybody else. This quote just perfectly captures what it means to be a courtier. It's about total self-control. The ability to hide your irritation, to smile at your enemies, to disguise your real passions, and to act completely opposite to how you really feel. It is the ultimate performance. And so, that leaves us with one final thought. This game of power, it's being played in your office, in your industry, in your life, whether you like it or not. So the only real question is, what role are you playing?